Hello everybody! So I'm back after 4 days, because last time I streamed was Thursday. Didn't stream over the weekend, but I am back from my vacation, and I'm here to do some more streaming, so tonight we're just gonna do Chaos Head Noah. So we're just gonna read some of this and then that'll be it. But tomorrow, we have the new update to Genshin Impact 4.3 coming out tomorrow. So we'll start tomorrow's stream with Chaos Head Noah, but then once the game is back live with the new update, we will switch over to Genshin Impact and check out the new content. I think I don't think there's a new Archon quest with this update. I could be wrong, but I don't remember them saying there's a new Archon quest. But there is a new story quest featuring Navia, so we will play through that. But for tonight, we're just gonna do Chaos Head Noah. So, where I left off last time I streamed, Takumi finally got in a conversation with this girl named Sena, who he's kind of seen around different places, but he's kind of tried to avoid her up to this point. He saw her at school once. He saw her like out in the streets with her D-sword. And then this last time I streamed, he saw a white chain on the ground that he followed into a I guess a train car, and he found Sena just sitting there alone in the train car, and she finally kind of had a conversation, although I guess it was pretty one-sided because I think Sena was the one that was doing most of the talking, but basically she told him about this, I guess it's some kind of device or something that got patented, and it's kind of like this thing that allows you to stream signals into the brain that can kind of warp your perception of reality and like make you see things that aren't really there, kind of like hallucinations, I guess. And then basically she's just like, you know, don't trust anything you see. You don't know what's reality and what's not reality and all that. So yeah, and Takumi did confirm the that there he did confirm the existence of this patent she was talking about. He was able to get some information about it from somebody that he knew on the internet, so yeah. I think that's about all there was last time I streamed, so yeah, we will go ahead and pick up with the next scene here. Ugh. The only sound in the room was that of fingers on keys. Yua Kusunoki's thin, slender fingers were dancing on the keyboard. Her gaze was locked on the monitor. She was typing without looking at the keyboard with barely any spelling errors. She was writing an email. A long one, too. She'd spent 30 minutes already thinking about what to write, and then going back and changing it. Suddenly her fingers stopped. She let out a sad sigh, and suddenly pressed down hard on the backspace key. The cursor on the screen began to scroll quickly towards the left. Everything she'd written vanished in a flash as it went. When it was all gone, Yua brought her Gero Froggy plush over from her bed and gave it a tight squeeze. It was a habit of hers lately. If she wasn't holding something tightly, the fear would overtake her. She pressed her head down into the stuffed animal and sighed a little. She whispered to no one in particular and then pursed her lips. She put the stuffed animal on her lap and put her hands back on the keyboard. Letters began to appear on the screen once more, one by one, as her slender fingers typed. The message was, compared to the one she just deleted, simple and short. When she was done, she hesitated a moment before finally clicking send. The email was sent on its way before she had a chance to change her mind. She held the Gero Froggy on her lap tightly and stared at the monitor for over an hour. She hadn't expected an answer, of course, but there was no sign that one was coming. Room 37 was the same as always. I sunk down into the reclining seat and bit my nails in an attempt to calm my irritation. There was a reason I'd come to At Cafe 2 days in a row, both yesterday and again today. That night, 2 days ago, after I'd found out from Grimm that Sena's story was true, I'd gotten an email from Yua. It was ridiculously enough, a request to talk to me again. Screw you was what I wanted to say to her. Why would I want to talk to you after you lied to me? I don't have anything to talk to you about anyway. Obviously, this is just part of some new trap. I'm not going to waste time talking to you. Sure, I wasn't used to talking to girls. That's why I'd gotten so excited when Yua tried to be friendly with me. But behind my back, she thought I was an idiot. And then there was that weird delusion of hers. Sure, I had delusions myself, but I didn't bother other people with them. But her? That crazy bitch had practically called me the new gen killer. I'd never forgive her. I decided to just ignore it, but there was one problem. The email said she'd come visit the base. She knew where it was, so if she wanted to, she could. That's why I'd come here, to At Cafe, even though it wasn't a school day. I wanted to take the D-sword with me for protection, but unlike Sena, I lacked the courage to carry that thing through Center Street. Spending almost half a day in a net cafe was kind of exhausting, though. The reclining seat was comfy, and there was even a shower in the place, but It wasn't as relaxing as the bass. And the biggest problem of all was that Seraton wasn't here. After 2 days holed up in that cafe, I'd come to realize how much she meant to me. I wanted to go home now. But I decided I'd stay here until midnight at least. By then, the trains would stop running, and even Yua wouldn't be able to stay out that late. It would be another 4 hours until midnight. If I played some ESO, the time would fly, but... I looked over at the monitor. You know, he could just, like, put out a restraining order on her. Like, if he thinks she's just gonna, like... Yeah, anyway. My second character, Lisa Lot, was standing there doing nothing.
お前の見ている景色は本物か?
I remembered what Sena said. Over half of what she told me was true. The one thing I hadn't been able to find a source for was that stuff controlling people's will or their bodies. Maybe that part was just Sena's delusion? Mixing in a little lie with the truth was something that blackmailers and other people who wanted to make threats often did, because it worked. I knew that, at least in my head, but after all the strange things that had happened to me over the past few weeks, I still couldn't help but feel scared. I stared at Lisa Lot on the screen.
リーゼロって、お前の見ている景色は本物か?
I whispered so that nobody around me could hear. I'd thought about something similar a bunch of times. Basilard, Lisa Lot's world, the world that I was looking at right now, was real to her, but to me it was fake. Which meant that the person controlling me was seeing my world, and it was fake too. But just as Lisa Lot couldn't see her controller because he was in a higher dimension, I couldn't see the person controlling me either. Did Lisa Lot ever think about things like this? She couldn't even move unless I told her to. So, what about me? Could I even get out of this reclining seat if the person controlling me didn't want me to? I tried to stand up just to see if I could. I succeeded easily. Then I tried sitting down. I did it without difficulty. Was what I just did done of my own will? Or was the person controlling me telling me what to do? I didn't have any way to tell.
Eh?
I heard the sound of the door to my booth opening. I sensed somebody come in. I turned around. It was Yua Kusunoki. I was so scared I tried to scream. But Yua put her hand on my mouth. Her hand was warm, and the scent of her sweat hit my nostrils.
黙って。声は出さないで。出さないって約束して。約束してくれるよね。しないなんて言わないよね。約束して。するでしょ。するの。お願い。
The booth was tiny. Yua blocked the only exit. That's weird. Just now it was making like a different sound. I don't know what that means. Yeah, I still haven't figured out what the hell this is supposed to mean. The next thing I knew, she'd pinned my shoulders with incredible strength. I couldn't get up from the seat. Her cold gaze pierced me from point-blank range. I looked away, unable to bear her gaze, and saw the 3 Gero froggies on her shoulder bag.
いい声を出さないで
What do I do? What should I do? I tried desperately to come up with a way to escape from this situation, but it didn't work. I couldn't think clearly. I'd been caught totally off guard, and my mind was going blank.
昨日あなたの家に行ったんですけどいませんでしたよね夜まで待ってたんですけどでも私を避けようとする西条くんの気持ちはよくわかります私西条くんのこと騙してたわけだし
Then just leave me alone. I had nothing to say to one of Shogun's servants, particularly the sort of awful person who'd try to trick and trap someone as helpless as me. Yua cast her gaze downward for a moment, as if hesitating, and then she whispered,
その目誰の目知ってますよね知らないなんて言わせませんヴァンパイアのダイイングメッセージですネットで公表されたことで渋谷で大流行中の言葉でも私流行る前から知ってましたヴァンパイアより前にこの言葉を使っている人がいたから将軍前に見せましたよねナイトハルト西条君と将軍のチャットログそこで将軍が書き込んでましたその目誰の目ってそして
She got closer. Her voice was calm and peaceful, but there was a piercing, cold light in her eyes. She was staring at me, unblinking. I looked away.
将軍はあなたつまり
Which means what?
お願いです西条君もう
Suddenly I realized her hands were shaking. Or was my shaking just being transferred to her hands? Then she said something I couldn't believe.
人を殺すのやめてください
What?
自覚がないんですねでもそれも私には理解できます 西条くんに自覚があるはずないから。
What was she saying?
あなたは
There was a sadness in her eyes. She'd been staring straight at me, but suddenly her gaze turned downward.
DID 多重人格なんです。
I had multiple personalities?
最初はあなたのこと警察に突き出すつもりでした。
She kept talking despite my confusion.
それが無理ならこの手でとも思ってました。だけどあなたのこと調べていくうちにあなたも苦しんでるんだって分かって。
Her eyes were looking into mine again. They were pleading with me. And the way it seemed like she was really worried about me. It made me shiver.
私あなたを助けたい。
Her delusions were getting out of control. Nothing she said made any sense. Wait, really? Did it really not make sense?
だから病院に行きましょう。
I didn't understand myself. I'd used the name Shogun in a chat without even knowing it. I was friends with a girl named Rimi without having any memories of her. Maybe I wasn't sleepwalking. Maybe there wasn't some being from a higher dimension controlling me. Maybe the person controlling me was in fact inside my mind the whole time. A me who wasn't me. Another personality who wasn't me. Multiple personalities. My head ached. There was a painful stinging in my temples. This was impossible. It couldn't be true. I wasn't going to believe it. It was just a delusion of Yua's. She was my enemy. She was getting in my way. She was trying to trap me. She was trying to destroy my mind. And the hospital was under Shogun's influence too. The one person I could trust, Dr. Takashina, had disappeared so suddenly that I knew something must have happened to him. Shogun must have killed him. And if I did what Yua said, I'd be killed too. There was no way I was going to believe this woman. I don't believe her. 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 My brain shut down. I pushed her as hard as I could. She fell back into the wooden partition door and collapsed to the ground in pain. Finally free from her grip, I grabbed my bag and stepped over her into the corridor. She grabbed my ankle, still crouched on the ground. Her hair was a mess, and her glasses had slid down onto her nose. She was clinging to me as hard as she could. I was so scared, I let out a miserable scream. She was my enemy. She was working with Shogun. I wouldn't let her fool me. I wouldn't let her fool me again. I screamed, and she let go. I ran while I had the chance. I slammed down a 5,000 yen bill from my wallet onto the counter in front of the astonished clerk. Then I ran into the elevator outside without even waiting for my change. When it hit the ground floor, I dashed outside. The sun had already set. I looked around. There were so many people around. Run. I just had to run. It was too dangerous to go back to the base. She'd follow me there. I started to run without even knowing where I should go. The thought of Yua coming out of the other elevator any second now and threatening me with her cold voice made me feel like I needed to get out of there as soon as possible. I ran and ran, stopping again and again to look behind me. Hey, Soraru. Hey, what's going on? Sorry, I was kind of reading some stuff about the localization translation of this visual novel. Anyway, I ran and ran, stopping again and again to look behind me. The other pedestrians kept getting in my way. I slammed into salarymen and DQN-looking high school girls. Each time they'd curse at me. But I ignored them and kept running. It hurt to breathe. I'd chosen my path randomly, so I didn't even know where I was. I stopped to catch my breath. Then I looked around at my surroundings. I was in front of the Maruichi building. I was close enough to Miyashita Park that I could escape there. I'd rest a little and then keep running. If I could get to Yoyogi Park, there'd be any number of places to hide. Maybe I could spend the night there. I couldn't stop worrying about whether or not Yua was following me. I couldn't see her anywhere. But she might show up at any second with that placid, emotionless face of hers. My instincts drove me forward. Run! Run! When I made it to the bridge at Miyashita Park, I flopped right down onto the ground. I'd run so much my throat was parched. I wanted an ice-cold soda. But I didn't see any vending machines nearby. Maybe I'd run enough that I was safe now. No, I couldn't be sure. I kept a careful eye on my surroundings. I assumed Miyashita Park would be pretty empty at night, but that didn't seem to be the case. I saw a salaryman walking quickly through the park, taking a shortcut on his way home, and an older man sitting on a bench and playing with his cell phone. A group of homeless men were sitting together, and a man in blue was talking to them. A policeman. The police. I gulped. Those two policemen had talked to me before, hadn't they? I hadn't heard anything from them. They said they'd send someone to watch the area around the base, but nothing had come of it. Misumi had said they'd come to school, though. What were their names again? I couldn't remember. I told them exactly what I'd seen during the crucified incident, but looking back, something in their expressions had made it clear that they were pretty suspicious. Suddenly, the police officer standing by the homeless men looked over at me, or at least it felt like he did. No way. I was overthinking it, I told myself, but still I looked carefully at what the policeman was doing. Maybe I made it too obvious, though, because this time he looked straight at me. I looked away first. There was no way I could win a staring contest with a cop. Had that policeman been looking at me? Was he just staring back because I was staring at him? Which was it? I couldn't tell. It could have been either. I waited a little, then looked back at the policeman once more. He was still staring at me, so I had no choice but to quickly look away. You know how delusion triggers work? You're talking about the thing where it spins and like makes either the red or the green swirly thing? Yeah, I've never been able to figure out what the fuck that thing does. Like, I've tried it several times, but it doesn't seem to like change anything, so... Crap. This time I totally looked suspicious. Yua was already after me. I couldn't have the cops after me, too. I had to get through this somehow. I wiped off the cold sweat on my forehead. Then I took a textbook out of my bag, and as I sat there on the ground, I pretended to read it as I watched the policeman. If you pick the red thing, you get a negative delusion. So you mean the text that I'm reading changes if I pick one of the two? He took out something black that might have been a police radio and started speaking into it. He seemed to be reporting something. But the bridge I was sitting on was over Meiji Street. And the sound of the cars below made it too loud to hear what he was saying. Okay. Well, I'm not too worried about getting different endings at this point. I mean, this is my first playthrough, so I'm just gonna take whatever ending I get. And then after that, I'll start worrying about trying to get other endings. I do appreciate the tip, though. I will keep that in mind. Although, does it matter? Like, what if let's say... I know this is weird, but what if I, like, wait until halfway through the dialogue has already, gone by, and then I hit one of the two of them? Does it, like, immediately... yeah, I don't know. Does it, like, just... immediately change the text to whatever it would be in the delusion, or this was bad. I was sure of it. I needed to get out of here, but it was too late. Trying anything stupid would be suicide. Since I'd chosen to pretend I was reading a book, I needed to keep it up for a while or it would look suspicious. I needed to at least keep it up until the policeman stopped looking at me. And then... someone ran into the park and right up to the policeman. As I watched out of the corner of my eye, I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Yua? Why did she have to find me now? Cold sweat beaded not just on my forehead, but my whole body. This was bad. This was extremely bad. Yua didn't seem to have noticed me yet, so I prayed she'd just pass me by. But I wasn't going to be that lucky. The policeman was staring at me right now, after all. When Yua spoke to him, he noticed me immediately. I grunted, threw my textbook in my bag, and got ready to get up off the ground. I was ready to run at any time. The two of them had a short conversation and then looked at me. "Don't look at me." Yua pointed in my direction. She was explaining something to the officer. "That bitch! Damn her!" I was a peaceful guy, but I was about ready to snap. She turned me over to the police. And what she told them was the insane delusion she'd come up with in her head, that I was the new gen killer. Maybe she'd be satisfied now, but what about me? How was I supposed to deal with the false accusation? But of course, nobody heard my internal scream. The police officer began to head toward me at a fast pace. I stood up. Shit, shit, shit! She trapped me. She was trying to destroy me. What do I do? What do I do? Should I try talking to the policeman? Should I tell him it was all a delusion of hers? I didn't do anything. I'm an innocent, upstanding citizen. No way. There was no way that would work. In our society, there was no doubt about who the cop would believe between a creepy otaku like me or a normal-looking teenage girl like Yua. He probably wouldn't even give me a chance to talk. Save, okay. You can't get an ending if you kind of mess with it. You pick them in a specific order. Okay. Well, that's fine. We want. I mean, I'm gonna get all the endings anyway, so we might as well just get the normal one first. Man. I had to get out of here. By the time the thought entered my brain, I'd already turned around and started running. I crossed the bridge and headed down the stairs towards Meiji Street. When I looked back, I could see the policeman chasing me. And what was weirder? Even the man on the bench and one of the homeless people were now chasing after me too. No way. Did Yua have the cops on her side the whole time? Was Miyashita Park filled with plainclothes detectives? I didn't know what to do. I felt pure shock. It was so unfair that I was almost ready to cry. I didn't do anything. I did nothing. The cops were believing her lies. This wasn't fair. I wiped away my tears and ran down the stairs. I headed as fast as I could down Meiji Street toward the station. I ran through the underpass and up the stairs of the pedestrian bridge. People kept getting in my way and blocking me. I started to wonder if they were doing it deliberately. Everybody started looking like a detective. I was on the verge of panic. I looked back and saw somebody chasing me. I got a glimpse of them moving through the crowds just like I was. It was one of the people I'd seen at the park. I couldn't tell which, but they were chasing me. I shuddered. If they caught me here, my life was over. I'd be given the death penalty for a crime I didn't commit and put in jail for decades. Well, hold on. It's one or the other, dude. You don't get the death penalty and put in jail for decades. I'd endure a living hell for years, and then they'd say, okay, it's time for you to die. Please, no. I couldn't handle that. I didn't want that to be my life. Even if I was found innocent in the end, once you were branded a criminal, that didn't disappear. Nobody would ever trust me again. Please, no. I didn't do anything. I ducked into a small side alley and kept running as fast as I could. But since I'd been running ever since I left at Cafe, I quickly ran out of breath. My lungs were desperate for oxygen. My legs could barely move from exhaustion. I regretted not exercising more, but it was far too late for that now. Finally, I stopped, leaning forward with my hands on my knees and panting. I couldn't run anymore. I was in a place I recognized. The distinctive red brick exterior, the big lit-up sign reading Gigantes. I'd come here once with Misumi. Back then, I'd come to see Phantasm's concert. More specifically, its lead singer, Fess. Now, it was quiet and seemingly empty. Only the feeble light of a single vending machine illuminated the front of the building. I glanced back at the path I'd come from, annoyed that my breathing wasn't going back to normal. It was a dark and narrow alley. The Toyoko Line's train passed right above me, the light streaming from the car windows shining bright against the night. But even that light failed to reach the darkness just beneath it. I squinted into the night. Had I ditched the police in Yua? It was too dark to see.
私についてきて。
I heard a voice right next to my ear and let out a pathetic scream as I fell back. It was Fess. She was dressed in the elaborate outfit she wore for her concerts. As she quietly stood above me in the darkness, there was a sense of fragility about her that hadn't been there when I saw her on the stage. It was too dark to guess at the look on her face. As I sat there, too shocked to move, Fess offered me a hand.
だって、早く。
Her voice was calm, but there was power in it. She slowly turned her head, her hands still stretched out to me, as if to see whatever was beyond the darkness.
逃げないと。
How? Did she know I was being chased by Yua and the police? For a moment, I was cautious, but right now, I had no choice but to trust her. I grabbed it and clung tightly. Her hand was cold. As I stood, she started to run. I was angry because of how exhausted I was, but if it weren't for Fess, I might have stayed there until the police caught me. I wanted some water, but I knew there wasn't time. Fess kept pulling me onward. We went down narrow alleys, turning at one intersection after another. I no longer had any idea where I was going. I barely knew the layout of Shibuya anyway. At this point, I'd just have to keep following Fess. Part of me thought for a minute that this might be a trap of Shogun's, but I brushed the thought away. Even if Fess was working for Shogun, there was nothing I could do at this point. My leg muscles were filled with lactic acid, and all the running must have kept my brain from getting enough oxygen, because I felt like I was on the verge of passing out. I had to stop myself from telling Fess that I couldn't run anymore. Actually, I might have said it a bunch of times without realizing it. But Fess just kept running, without even looking back at me once. The next thing I knew, we were on a path directly beneath the highway. We were close to Shibuya Station, but there weren't many people here at all. Fess headed down a stairwell that led into the darkness. It felt like she knew exactly where she was going. When we got to the very bottom, she finally stopped. I let go of her hand and grabbed onto the stairwell's handrail, panting for breath. How much running had I done today? I wasn't sure if I'd ever exercised so much in my life. For a while, the only sounds in the dark, gloomy underground corridor were the sounds of our breathing. I looked up at the stairwell's entrance. Nobody had followed us. Had we gotten away? That said, I'd never seen this little underground corridor before. It was close to the station, but there was nobody here. One of the lights illuminating the tunnel was on the verge of burning out and was constantly flashing on and off. There was a faint smell of rotting garbage. The place seemed to symbolize the underground side of Shibuya. If somebody attacked you here, you could scream, but nobody would notice. It wasn't a place I'd want to come alone. Okay, I'll do the green. Still panting for breath, I looked over at Fess. This was the underground indie singer who was beloved by all the youth of Shibuya, the one they even called a prophet. And here she was, with a creepy otaku like me. It felt kind of weird. Beads of sweat had formed on her forehead, running in rivulets down her face. She was wiping them away with the back of her hand. I could see part of her bare chest inside her open jacket, peeking out above the camisole she wore. It was heaving up and down with each breath she took. For all that her languid demeanor, there was something about her body that felt sexy and alive. It wasn't really moe, it was sexy, probably was the best word for it. Okay, yeah, that definitely seemed like that definitely seemed like that wasn't normal dialogue there or whatever. Her camisole with the cross design was just incredible. There was no way she was wearing a bra under. Wait, we're back to normal and he's still he's still talking like that. What the fuck? Yeah, I bet she wasn't wearing a bra at all. What kind of underwear did Fess usually wear? It was probably sexy stuff. Black and red, maybe. But personally, I'd rather she wore something nice, like white with a good girl vibe to it. Wait, why was I thinking about this now?
追われてたわね。
え、うん。
警察。
Hold on, did I just trigger the flag for the Fess ending by doing that? Oh, shit. I nodded. It wasn't just the police, but Yua too. But I was too tired to explain that.
私も同じ。
Huh? What did that mean?
私が書いた歌詞と、なんとかって呼ばれてる事件との関係について。だって。
You want to go back and try the negative one? I guess. Hold on, let me go a little longer and then I'll go back.
しつこく聞かれたわ。
New Gen. Fess's lyrics matched every one of the cases. That's why her believers all said the same thing, that she was a prophet.
「私、疑われてるみたい。
As the New Gen killer, huh? I had too when I learned about her lyrics for the first time. I'd actually thought she might be Shogun. But since she saved me, that actually might not be true. Okay, we'll go ahead and go back, I guess. I'll save this here and then, yeah, load. Okay, so here's the red one. Still panting for breath, I looked over at Fess. This was the underground indie singer who was beloved by all the youth of Shibuya, the one they even called a prophet. And here she was, with a creepy otaku like me. It felt kind of weird. Beads of sweat had formed on her forehead, running in rivulets down her face. She was wiping them away with the back of her hand. I could see part of her bare chest inside her open jacket, peeking out above the camisole she wore. It was heaving up and down with each breath she took. Okay, this is still the same thing. This is the same thing as the green one. Fess was hot. Misumi was right when he'd said so before. You couldn't really tell when she wore her school uniform. Oh, okay, I see. But in this outfit, it was obvious. She was tall, and her breasts were just the right size, and she had a curvy waist, too. And then there were her legs shown off beneath her mini-skirt. They were long and well-toned. She looked like a model. A girl with proportions like hers might look great in a competition swimsuit. No, wait a second. A school swimsuit might be better. The cool, cold Fess in a school swimsuit. That would create the perfect gap between costume and persona. Oh wait, why was I thinking about this now?
追われてたわね。
え、うん。
警察？
No, it wasn't just police, but you were too, but I was deterred. Okay, I think we're back to the same dialogue now again.
私も同じ。
Huh? What did that mean?
私が書いた歌詞となんとかって呼ばれてる事件との関係について。だ
Yeah.
ってしつこく聞かれたわ。
Hold on, I can... Should be a way to... delusion, trigger, cancel, skip. Okay. Where do you... Skip mode? Don't skip unread. Okay, we'll... Wait, why is it not... Oh, it's a... Okay. So we want skip all then, I guess. Okay. All right.
私疑われてるみたい。
Okay. Well, alright, so I'm gonna go back now and just do the normal, like, no delusion. So we'll see what that's like. Oh, fuck, I just did save instead of load. God damn it. Okay. Okay, well, never mind. I guess we won't do that then. As the new gen killer, huh? I had too when I'd learned about her lyrics for the first time. I'd actually thought she might be Shogun, but since she saved me, that actually might not be true. Let me think. Hold on, let me try something else. I'm gonna go like way back here. Now, I told it to skip all in here, right? So, yeah. Oh, fuck, I can't skip this. Damn it. Shit. You get an achievement if you click all of them? Okay.
Hi, お疲れ様でした。
Okay, how do I get it to go into skip mode? I don't know. What's the... hold on. Key config, skip mode. Oh, fuck. Why is it putting the buttons on here? I don't even have a controller connected right now. I don't know why the fuck it's doing that. Try dot. Oh, there we go. Alright. Finally got a delusion now. Alright. So this time I'm gonna go ahead and save it at like every time it does this. But I'm just gonna skip through it. I'm not gonna like do any delusions or whatever. Save here. Okay. And then we'll keep going. How many... Where, are you serious right now? You only have fucking 8 save slots and that's it? Oh, well, fuck me. I guess... I guess this was a bad idea then. Shit. I can't believe they only give you 8 fucking slots in this visual novel. That's a bunch of bullshit, dude. How am I supposed to, like... Well, okay, well, whatever. I don't know. Okay. Well, but still though, I like to have a save at every point where there's like some way you can change the progression of the story, so... But obviously you can't really do that with only 8 save slots, so... Okay, we're getting there. We're getting close, I think. Okay, yeah, we're already caught up now. Okay. Okay, let's just go through this normal with no delusion and then see how that changes. Although I guess I could just do this, just kind of skip. Whoa, wait a sec. Bro, it just skipped. I thought it was gonna stop skipping when it reached text that I hadn't read yet. What the fuck? Okay, I guess that doesn't... I guess this visual novel doesn't have that. That fucking sucks. Okay, now she was tall and sexy like a model. All the guys probably liked her. Wait, why was I thinking about this now?
追われてたわね。
え、うん。
警察。
I don't know, I feel like the outcome, I mean, yeah, the dialogue changed a little bit, but it was essentially the same thing, like whether I did the red, the green, or no delusion at all.
私も同じ。私が書いた歌詞と何とかって呼ばれてる事件との関係についてだってしつこく聞かれたわ。私疑われてるみたい。
Alright, I think this is where we stopped. What was Fess doing here, though? It was just blind luck that she'd been there to save me, right? It was right in front of the concert hall, so maybe she'd had a concert today?
君が追われてるのはなぜ？何か悪いことでもしたの？
チクられた。あの女、僕のことチクったんだ。ニュージェネの犯人にされる。
You tried to get me arrested. Damn it. She and Shogun were on the verge of destroying my life.
そう。容疑者候補ね。私たち。
How could she be laughing?
僕は無実だ!
I got so excited I yelled. My voice echoed loudly throughout the tunnel, but I couldn't control myself anymore.
事件を目撃しただけだ。証拠品を勝手に持ち帰っちゃったけど、それだけ。僕殺してない。
それなら。
Fess's voice regained its calmness.
きっとそれは導きなのよ。
Wait a sec. I wonder. Don't skip. Oh, maybe I needed to. Okay. I guess I should have kept this checked instead of going to skip all. That's probably why it did what it did. Anyway.
大いなる存在による。
Another crazy chick? Another lunatic?
君の見たものが事実だったか幻だったかは些細なこと。
That terrible, awful scene was an illusion? Was that possible? It was so real.
君が今抱いている苦しみや怒りは必要なものだったということよ。
What was she talking about? I was disappointed. I'd kind of realized she was crazy when I'd seen her at the concert, but I hadn't realized it was this bad. They say there's a fine line between genius and crazy, but...
だから早く見つけて。剣見つけて。
He already found it. I gasped. That's what she'd said at school before. Find it and you'll be saved. That's what she'd said before. The police were scary, but Shogun and his servants were even scarier. I didn't know why, but they were clearly trying to trap me. And if I was going to save myself from them, if I was going to protect myself, I needed...
ディソード。
そうよ。
Fess's lips curled into a smile.
勉強したみたいね。
それなら手に入れた。僕はディソードをも持ってる。今家に。
知ってるわ。
You know? How do you know?
見たから。君が渋谷のど真ん中を歩いていたの。大きなおもちゃを抱きしめて恥ずかしそうにしてたわね。
It's almost like she's mocking him. She was talking about the day I bought the D sword. I can't believe she'd seen me. Shogun? Shogun? I mean, yeah, if you were doing... Yeah, if you're doing Japanese pronunciation, yeah, U's are always pronounced oo, not But, I don't know. I mean, Shogun is an English word, so I figured I would just pronounce it like in English. But yes, technically, if you're trying to use the Japanese pronunciation, it would be Shogun.
おもちゃ。
The smile was gone from her face. She glanced at me for a moment, and then sighed. The air of ennui around her was so strong, I was starting to get nervous.
偽物だと思うわ。
A fake. Well, it'd be nice if you told him how to recognize authenticity of D-swords before, you know, you told him you need to find a D-sword and then just let him go try to find one. Like, bro.
あなたの買った剣は
Of course. I wasn't that surprised. It was exactly what I'd expected to hear, actually. Compared to the sword that Sena had, mine looked incredibly cheap. And it didn't glow either. And anyway, Fess had told me that this was the sword that was going to save my life. The idea that it was on sale for 10,000 yen next to a bunch of sex toys was just too lame to be real. So I wasn't that surprised. Instead, I felt violently angry. Angry at the gloomy-looking shop clerk who tricked me. Now he should tell Fess that and be like, "Yo, Fess, come with me to that fucking shop, and we'll beat the shit out of that clerk together." And then make her tell us where the real one is. Angry at myself for being stupid enough to fall for it. Angry at Fess for saying all these important sounding things without actually telling me anything useful.
じゃあ
I stood up and stormed over to Fess. Normally, I'd never be able to do something like that, but right now, I was desperate. My encounters with Yua and the police had me scared to death. And not only that, I'd been through absolute hell in the past month or so. I was sick of it. If I was going to go back to my normal life, I needed that sword.
教えてよ。ディソードはどうやって手に入れるのか。
The look on Fess's face became very serious as she turned towards me.
見て。
She held out her right palm for me to see. Then she motioned for me to stop getting closer as she made a fist. Then she flung her arm back, and with a sound like breaking glass, the empty air cracked and shattered. My eyes went wide in shock. Fess stared at me, her expression unchanging. Beyond the cracks in space, I could see a deep darkness. Fess stuck her hand in between the cracks and pulled hard. Well, damn. And?
そうだ。
The crack in space was repaired almost instantly. It disappeared as if it had never been there. The whole thing took only a few seconds.
は
Was that a magic trick? Or just a delusion I'd seen? I couldn't believe what had just happened in front of my very eyes. It didn't feel real. This was something out of a fantasy or an anime.
この剣は命運を握るもの。
The sword was the one that Fess was waving around. Oh, I'm sorry. The sword was the one that Fess was waving around during her concert. One I'd thought was a mic stand. It was shaped like one of those battleships you see in every sci-fi anime.
この剣は嘆きを収束させたもの。
There wasn't a single straight edge on the whole thing. But it was sharp, beautiful, and terrible.
この剣は超越した場所に干渉するためのもの。
It felt like touching it would cut your fingers clean off.
超越した場所って。
I couldn't look away. My eyes were locked on Fess's D-sword. I couldn't help but ask.
異空間のようなもの。
Another space? This whole thing was turning into an anime.
同一次元上にあるもう一つの可能性。あるいは妄想。
Delusion?
言い方にあまり意味はないわ。唯一確かなのはこの剣もその領域に存在しているということ。
Did that mean that the D-sword was a product of Fess's delusions? The impossible scene I'd just witnessed was a delusion? It didn't exist in reality?
そんなの ありえない。
そう。
If Fess's sword was a delusion, how could I see it?
言葉に引きずられてはダメよ。後ろを振り返ってみて。
I was confused at Fess's sudden demand, but obeyed. Behind me was the stairs, and also Fess was standing there, wearing a school uniform.
あえ
Fess was beside me, and Fess was standing in front of the stairs. There were two of the same person in the same place. Shocked, I looked back and forth from one to the other. Their face, build, hair, everything was the exact same. The only difference was their clothes and whether they were holding a sword or not. They weren't twins or anything like that. They didn't just look alike. They were exactly the same.
これも君の妄想。
The two fesses said the same thing at the same time. My head was starting to hurt. What was happening right in front of my eyes? I will be right back. Gonna go get some water. Alright, I am back. Alright, Yasuji Ban was walking through a narrow, filthy alleyway in Maruyamacho. He jammed a hand in his pocket. He checked, making sure there were a dozen or so coins inside.
先輩、貼り付けの現場に何があるっていうんすか？もう事件から2週間以上経ってるし、散々調べられた後っすよ。新しい証拠なんて出てきませんって。
Ugh. His partner, Detective Suwa, was walking behind him and complaining in an irritated voice. It was only natural that Suwa would be upset. The job they'd been given was to tail Takumi Nishijo, a person of interest in the New Gen murder cases. But right now, they were ignoring that job and coming to visit the scene of the third New Gen case, Crucified. Bon had left the job of tailing Takumi Nishijo to some of the local cops, without bothering to tell the rest of the force he'd done so. From the perspective of a rookie like Suwa, this was reckless and crazy.
やっぱまずいっすよ。尾行に戻りましょう。
Bon had dragged him out here without any explanation. Of course he was upset. So he'd been trying to persuade Bon to turn back for a while now, but...
いいから黙ってついてこいって。
Bon completely ignored the rookie's protests and didn't seem the slightest bit concerned. Before long, they reached a narrow road blocked off by yellow tape. As Sua sighed again, seemingly for the 100th time that day, his phone buzzed. He took it out, the look on his face quickly returning to that of a young, capable detective, before he pressed the button to answer.
スワス。はい。はい。
Bon stopped in front of the tape as he listened to Sua talking behind him. Past the tape was the crime scene. The place was dark, just like it had been during the time of the crime. Except for the tape, there was nothing to indicate that anything had ever happened.
見失った？女か。やられたっすね。とりあえず、深センの家に戻ってほしいっす。
Uh-oh.
はい。張り込んでてください。いやいや、大丈夫っすよ。責任はバン警部補が取るっすから。
Damn. I mean, does this mean Takumi is never going to return to his base again? Like shit. Bon chuckled a little when he heard that. Sua was cleverer than he looked. Of course, Bon had no intention of letting Sua or the locals take the fall for him.
なるべく早くこっちも合流します。本当申し訳ないっす。お願いします。
Sua hung up the phone and glared at him just about the same time as Bon ducked under the tape. Sua followed reluctantly.
見失ったって？
尾行に気づかれたっす。直前にネットカフェで一騒動あったみたいっすし。
Some kind of struggle. I mean, isn't that actually pretty much Yua's fault? Like, I feel like Yua was the one that kind of fucked that up.
女っての？
岸本綾瀬っす。
お騒がせバンドの嬢ちゃんかな。つながりは？
同じ学校の同じ学年っすね。他は今のところ特に。クラスメートでもないっす。
Bon ran his hand through his stubble, enjoying the sensation for just a moment. Then he took out the coins from his pocket and began to count them in the darkness. Sua watched his partner's strange behavior, his mouth hanging open.
何してるんすか？
よりによって5円玉だけありゃしねえ。そう、お前5円玉持ってねえか？
はあ。
Sua handed the 5-yen coin over with a confused look on his face. But instead of taking it for some reason, Bon ripped off the bottom button on his dress shirt. Then he began to unravel the string wrapped around it.
先輩、ついに頭おかしくなったんすか？
生意気な口聞くようになったじゃねえか。
Bon chuckled and lightly punched him on the forehead. Then he took the 5-yen coin and ran the string through the hole in the middle.
よし、お前にやらせてやるよ。
Bon pinched both ends of the string with his fingers, hanging the 5 yen coin between them, and gave it back to his younger partner.
振り子っすか？
ああ
Bon laughed mischievously.
こいつが事件の重要なヒントを与えてくれるかもしれねえぜ。
マジっすか？バンさん勘弁してほしいっすよ。そのために仕事をほっぽってここまで来たんすか？
Sua sounded like he was on the verge of tears. Bon had dragged him on a lot of wild goose chases, but this was the worst of the lot.
サイキック操作とかダウジングとか
Dowsing? Huh. I must have not given the... I tried to replicate the same answers on that evaluation that I did before, but I must have done something different because now it's saying delusion level low, whereas before I think it said that I was just completely normal. But I don't know. I could just be misremembering. Okay, dowsing, the act of using a stick or pendulum to search for underground water. I have never heard of that shit. That's, okay, whatever.
その手のテレビでも見て影響を受けたんですね、先輩。
そういうお前も詳しいじゃねえの。
いや、まあ自分も見たは見たっすよ。先週のユーリ・ブライトマン。
ユーリ
ブライトマンっすよ。今話題になってるアメリカの超能力捜査官っす。
Psychic investigator.
俺が見たのはそんなチャラチャラしたもんじゃねえや。どこかのお偉い大学教授が出ててだな。
でもテレビっすよね。
ちいち文句の多いやつだ。やってみりゃわかる。ほら、いいから吊るしてみろって。
Bon had seniority, so Sua had no choice but to obey. He frowned and pouted, but he did take the 5 yen coin. Then he pinched the ends of the string and let the coin move in a circle. It was too dark to see, so Bon flipped out a 100 yen lighter and struck it to give them some light.
先輩ってタバコ吸いましたっけ
10年以上前に禁煙したやん。なんでだ。
ライター持ってたっすから。
こういうこともあろうかと用意しといたんだよ。
はは。で、これで何がわかるんす？
もっといろいろ動かしたり止めたりしてみろ。
Bon was staring at the movement of the 5 yen coin intently. He looked so serious that Sua found himself unable to complain anymore.
やっぱりな。 そうわかるか？
何がっす？
五円玉の動きだよ。さっきから少しだけ楕円を描いてるような気がしねえか。
The coin was moving slowly in a circular motion, held up by the string. Sua looked at it, a little confused.
力の入れ方とかじゃないんすかね。
お前楕円に回るように意識してやってんのか？
いや、結構適当にくるくると。
もっと手を動かさねえようにやってるわ。
はあ。
Sua tried his hardest to make it move in a circle, but no matter how many times he tried, it kept tracing out an ellipse.
おかしいな。
意識的に違う形にしようとしてもできねえだろ。
Bon grinned. Sua, however, seemed unsatisfied and kept trying to spin the coin.
まあ渋谷のどこでもこの現象が見られるわけじゃねえが、それでも十数箇所はここみてえな場所があるらしいぜ。
確かに不思議っすね。でもだから何なんす？
Bon looked up with a satisfied smile, putting the lighter in his pocket and taking the fan out from his belt.
お前渋谷がなんでここまで若者を引きつけるか知ってるか
5円玉が楕円を描くからっすか？
Bruh. Sua meant it as a joke, but Bon calmly waved his fan and nodded.
まあそういうこった。
なぜこの渋谷という場所は若者たちをこんなにも引きつけると思う？
Okay, that's weird. Alright. Alright, well, I think we'll stop here tonight. And we'll pick this up again tomorrow. Remember, tomorrow I'm gonna start with Chaos Head Noah, but then when the new update for Genshin Impact goes live, we're gonna switch over and play some of that. So yeah. Thanks for stopping by, Soraru. I'll see you tomorrow, and have a good night.